First of all, I am filled with gratitude today, an opportunity to be in this incredible community, and why I said yes. I said yes to this because I think right now we all need a place where we can have a deep breath, but that we can also get some techniques and some tips and some tools that can really help us navigate this. And so today is going to be 90 miles an hour. I'm going to ask you to fasten your seatbelt. You can follow along in the playbook, and if you don't have the playbook printed out, that's just fine. We will make sure that we post that link at some point, whether it's in the chat box during this session or it's post on the website, but we will make those tools available to you. So the very first thing that I'm going to ask you to do is, if you're comfortable, to close your eyes, and if you're not, to just find something to look at and just truly take a deep breath. And then we're going to engage in this session. So I'm going to ask you to open up that chat box if you have not already. We're not using the Q&A. We're going to use the chat box for the next 55 minutes for engagement, because I really want to know what you're thinking and feeling. And so the very first thing that I'm going to ask you is to let's be filled with gratitude as we start this, to notice that in all of the things that are happening, there are also extraordinary acts of kindness. And have you witnessed any? So yes, okay, the yeses are flying in, some are in capital letters. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, that's good. All right. It's really important to recognize, as Charlie says, both what's happening around us, but then to also have a reality check. So let's do the opposite. If you have felt like it's just been a little surreal lately, give me some exclamation points in that chat box.
The exclamation points are, the computer's going to break, I think. It's going to break. It's all exclamation points from here.
Yeah, some of you are just holding down that key. That's awesome. All right. Well, you are absolutely in the right place today if you are feeling a little bit like a yo-yo. And what I mean by that is there are highs and then all of a sudden there's lows, and you're seeing kindness and then you're feeling kind of pissy, and it all happens in a matter of 4 minutes. This is normal, right? I would imagine if you are like anybody in the country right now, especially us, I'm coming to you from San Diego, California. We are over 8 weeks now of being stuck inside. And so we are definitely having cabin fever, not COVID fever, but we are definitely having cabin fever. And so again, totally get it. You're also in the right place today if you have customers or colleagues or teammates, direct reports, spouses, significant others, kids, pets, friends, elderly members of your family who need you. So this is going to be really important. I'm talking a lot about leadership today. Leadership isn't contained or confined to just at work, just in a professional sense. So we're going to talk about leadership at home, within your own family, within your own community. And so we're going to talk a lot today. And I'm a big practical application gal. So I'm going to start with professional. I'm going to give a lot of tips and techniques for your communication skills in the professional arena. Then we're going to slide over to personal, help you shelter in place without ruining your relationships with everybody at home. And then we're going to talk about you as an individual, the conversations that you're having with me, myself, and I. And then I'm going to close up with a couple provocative comments about change, because I have a very different perspective about change. And so just going to keep you on your toes. We're going to go really quickly, but I wanted to give you an overarching framework of where I'm taking you in this webinar today. So we're going to start professionally. How do you lead through turbulent times? How do you lead through shifting, changing, and ultimately emerging times? It's going to start with servant leadership. That means you are going to serve your way through this. That's going to be the attitude that I'm going to ask you to keep top of mind is, how do I serve today? How do I serve my direct reports? How do I serve my colleagues? How do I serve my board? How do I serve my spouse or significant other or partner? Or how do I serve myself best today? But really think about coming at most of your conversations in the next couple days, really focused on how am I showing up to serve? And your role as a leader is to make sense of it all. There is so much data. There is so much information. There is so much noise that your job as a leader is to filter through it, to find those nuggets, to find those gems that you need most that helps to paint a more approachable and accessible picture for not only yourself, but for your people. And we're going to talk about how to do that. And then your job professionally is to provide credible clarity and calm. Why do I have an emphasis on the word credible? Because this is not about dismissing it. This is not about being Pollyanna, like, oh, we're going to be fine. We're going to get back to the old way by, I don't know, 6 a.m. tomorrow. It's all good. No, that's ridiculous, right? We need you to be credible. We need you to say, hey, here's the data, here's the information, and here's what we're going to do. Here's my thoughtful response to it. And then your job is to create and light the path forward. This is really important. We are creating a new path, and people will follow you when you're willing to walk it and when you're willing to light it. So again, we're going to talk about how to do that. And so today, just in this professional first section, I'm going to talk about how you show up. I'm going to talk about specific messaging. I'm going to talk about connectivity, because we all need it right now. And I'm also going to talk about selling in turbulent times. So I've been inundated with emails and phone calls and text messages of, AmyK, is it okay to sell? And if the answer is yes, then how do we sell? So I'm going to talk about that today as well. So let's dive in. How you show up. I got 3 A's for you today: approachable, accessible, and adaptable. What do I mean by these? Approachable is that you are human. You are willing to be vulnerable first. And Charlie just modeled it. Charlie didn't say, oh, we got this whole thing figured out. We got a master plan. And if you don't have a master plan and you're pregnant right now, you are behind the 8 ball. No, he was approachable, saying, we're figuring it out. And it's tough. And there's a wide range of emotions. And so now is your time to be human. Now is your time to be relatable and vulnerable. Now is your time to appropriately express that you don't have it all figured out, and that's okay, that you're working on it, and that you have some of these shared emotions as well, that you've also, a part of you is frustrated, or part of you is disappointed or stressed. When I talk about accessible, people need to be seen and people need to be heard. So I was working with a client just last week. Their customer service department was inundated with questions, and they're like, we don't have time to answer them all. I said, okay, that's real, but you must take the time, 5 seconds, to write somebody 1 sentence that says, hey, I got this. I will get back to you by tomorrow with an answer, or I will get back to you by Tuesday at 5, whatever it is. But people need to know that they have a witness to that question, that they've been seen and that they've been heard. And what's really great is it takes the pressure off of you to then have to respond more fully in that moment. Just acknowledging their presence, just acknowledging their question, that they matter enough to be acknowledged, is so important. And then that you're adaptable. So the way that I'm putting it as, we are living outside example. And so now is the time to set new good examples, but take the pressure off. This isn't a new normal. There's nothing normal about this. So we're outside of example. So then what are we going to do? How are we going to respond? What actions are we going to take with this new reality? And I want you to think about some very specific messaging. So I do a lot of sales training, and I'm not a fan of scripting. And it's kind of a bugaboo to me when I get on like a customer service call line and I know I've got this robotic script that somebody's reading. That's not helpful. What I do find extraordinarily helpful are these really brilliant back pocket one-liners. And so I'm going to share many of my magical phrases with you. For those of you who know me well, you know I'm a curator of magical phrases, mainly because I wish I'd had them a long time ago. But we're going to talk about some specific messaging. So first and last, my background is in neurology. My background is in cognitive science. I could talk about the brain all day long. But it's really important for you to remember that how you start a conversation and how you close it are more important than anything in between if you want people to remember something from that conversation. So the first thing that I'm going to ask you to do is to stop leading your conversations with headline news. I know you. I know what you're doing. You're walking into a room going, oh my God, did you just see the news? Oh my God, look what's happening in Spain. Oh my gosh, did you see what so-and-so just said? Not helpful. Totally relatable. So tell me in the chat box if any of you have led a conversation with headline news in the last week. Let me know. Be honest.
We have been having this issue within our organization. This is happening all the time. Football. Melinda, yes. Guilty. Ashley. Alicia says. Jolene, yes. Everybody, she says. Ashley says, I did it 10 minutes ago. Mason says, constantly. Christy, happens all the time. Love
okay,
it.
so you are not alone, right? So I'm not picking, I will tell you without being hypocritical, I do it on occasion too, and then I have to catch myself like, oh, AmyK, so not helpful, right? So what do you do if you don't start the conversation with headline news? You start it with an overarching framework, meaning a question or a statement for what you want that conversation to really be about. So it could be, how might we work more successfully remotely? How might we ensure we prioritize the next 30-day objectives? How might we do a better job of reaching out to all of our clients and customers? How might I find more alone time in my own home, right? So it's starting with a framework, and it could also be a statement. It could be, this conversation is about our meeting structure. This conversation could be about our next ad campaign. So just framing it as, this is what we're here to solve, explore, or discuss. I'll say that again. It's what we're here to solve, explore, or discuss. Now, I also want you to stop ending conversations with platitudes. This is a real world example from the last 8 weeks. If I had $1 for every time I heard somebody say the wrong platitude in the last 8 weeks, I would be in Fiji by now. One of the ones that was pretty common was, well, AmyK, what doesn't kill us makes us stronger. No, sorry, this is killing us right now. And so I'm not criticizing you if you've done this. What I'm asking you to do is to be more aware of the word choices. Now, this is really important because I don't want to get misquoted. You can have a fabulous quote. You can have a rallying cry. Just put thought into the words that you're choosing to say so that we have a real connect and people don't look at us and say, like, do you actually have any idea what's going on right now? So just choose your rallying cries or your quotes carefully. All right, what else do I want you to do? If I don't want you to end a conversation with a platitude, how do I want you to end your conversations? With action. Absolute actions, an offer or a request. So in other words, I might request of you to try one of these tools after this session. I might offer to go fill out the plan, or to type up the notes, or to go make that phone call, or to go start with step 1 of, phase 2. You want every single person leaving that conversation to say, this is what I'm going to go do. This is how I'm going to go play. This is my responsibility. And when they choose it of their own accord, you'll have much more buy-in and engagement and follow through, really and truly. So again, a great way to end a conversation is with an offer or a request. All right, magical phrases in this professional section. So remember, we're still in professional. I've not gone to personal, individual, or change, but just in this section, I want to give you some brilliant one-liners. The first one is, how might we? I've already used it for several examples in the overarching framework, but how might we is this fabulous little trifecta of tiny little words that have an enormous power boost. How means that we're open up to possibility, right? Might, we're going to have to explore and ideate. There's no one set rule or one set way of doing this. And we says, we're going to figure it out together. So it's not just you. It's not just me. We're in this together. Again, increasing collaboration, connectivity. I'm also saying, I want to know what you're thinking. Your ideas matter to me. Your voice is important and significant in solving this problem. So everything from how might we increase sales, to how might we structure our day better, to how might we set up more engaging meetings, whatever it is that you're working on. How might we hire in the middle of a pandemic? How might we retain our top talent, right? Any type of question that you want to ask, flip it into a how might we. It's a brilliant phrase. By the way, my parents, married 58 years next month, they read this phrase and they're like, oh, how might we get to the 58th year? And it was like cute. So they're practicing it too at home. All right, that won't do. Let's put this in context. This is when you need to lean in, still remaining 6 feet away, but when you need to lean in. So this is not a punity statement. This is not a penalty statement. This is a you getting on the same side as somebody. So for instance, if Charlie were to say to me, not true, but I'm making it up. If Charlie were to say to me, hey, AmyK, I can't do today. You're gonna have to find somebody else. I don't have Wi-Fi. I'll be like, oh, Charlie, that won't do. Let's get you Wi-Fi. Or if he comes to me and says, I don't have all the resources that I need, I go, oh, Charlie, that won't do. Let's get you what you need. So you're leaning in to say, I hear you, and I will help you solve this. It is a brilliant way to get somebody's stress to de-escalate, because now they feel less alone. Hey, I'm with you. That won't do. Let's fix this together. The next one is, would you be willing? Now, the reason that I brought this magical phrase is because we're going to have a reality check here. A very common experience right now is feeling out of control. So when you ask somebody, would you be willing, you are giving them a sense of control over their choices, their decisions, and their actions. So I may say to Charlie, hey, Charlie, would you be willing to meet at 2 o'clock? And if Charlie says, oh, no, I can't, that's like when I do such and such, then I go, oh, okay, well, would you be willing to do this? And Charlie will say yes or no. And if Charlie says no, again, I could follow it up with, well, hey, Charlie, what would you be willing to do, right? So I'm giving Charlie control over whatever choices it is that we're talking about. It allows people to feel, again, more included, and that their decisions, their choices, their schedules, their calendar, their circumstances are being taken into consideration. All right, another magical phrase is what I'm about to say going to help or going to hurt? Now, I've spent 28 years working with leaders around the globe on communication skills, and this gets a lot of pushback, and I still believe it after 28 years. There's no such thing as neutral. Even when you say you're fine, it's not entirely true. So you're either helping or you're hurting in your words. Now, why am I bringing this today? Because I got asked in the very first week of the pandemic, no exaggeration, over 132 times. A question that I got was, how do I contain a negative Nelly? How do I contain a Debbie Downer? And I said, well, first of all, you have to respect what they're experiencing. But then if they're creating an impact, if they're influence and they're showing up and they're bringing everybody down as well, then you need to pull them off to the side and say, hey, are these words, is this style, is this approach, is what you're sharing, do you think it's really helping or hurting? Now, reality check. They might be like, well, it's certainly helping me. And you could say, okay, well then I'm here for you. I'm here for you offline or online, one-on-one. I'm here for you. In our next meeting, I really want you to think about how you show up as to whether what you're about to say or do is going to help the greater good, help the greater mission, help the greater goal, or if it's going to hurt it or detract from it. By the way, this is a brilliant question that I ask myself before a really tough conversation. Now, this will date me because many of you are using very sophisticated technology and apps. And yes, I have my phones and my apps, but I go old school. And I put Post-it notes. Remember those things? I put Post-it notes on my screen if I'm having a really tough conversation and one says help and the other says hurt. And it's just a visual cue for me to remind me that how I phrase my words, how I show up, it's going to have a tremendous impact. All right. If you've got magical phrases that you love, that you use to turn around a moment, to pivot in a conversation, share them in the chat box. I am a huge curator. So if you've got some, we'll see them in the chat box and we can share those as well. All right, I'm moving into the second half of professional. So we're flying, we're going 80 miles an hour. In this professional section, I want to talk about leading with kindness. This is really important to me that when we show up to a conversation, when we show up to a Zoom session, whether it's a webinar or a meeting, that we show up with the intent to be kind. Why? Because not everybody's experience is the same. So I'll go back to the second week of the sheltering in place. I had clients who were laying off most of their workforce. In that same week, I had clients who were sharing with me, AmyK, I didn't ask for this, but I've actually had the most profitable week in the last 5 days than I've had in like the last 18 months, right? So I say this, and I say this professionally. I'm going to cuss. It's just who I am, but I'm going to say it professionally. We are in the same shitstorm. We are not necessarily in the same boat. So I just want you to think about that analogy. It's the same storm, but it's not the same boat. And so we need to show up honoring that everybody's got their own experience of walking through this time. And I just want to be respectful of that. Okay. Something that is very common too right now is monkey mind. So in the first stage of a pandemic, we have what's called an adrenaline response, an adrenaline rush. And that's when, just for those of you who want a little brain lesson, that's when right at the back of the skull, the top of your spine, your stem reptilian takes over. And it is cortisol and adrenaline, and we're gonna do this, yet I can't remember why I walked up the stairs and I opened up my laptop to check and my brain is absolutely ping-ponging. So tell me yes in the chat box if you've had a monkey mind in the last few weeks, if you're ping-ponging.
This is so relatable. All of this is so relatable. I'm running out of Post-its over here, AmyK. Everybody, yes, 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 yes. Christy, Sarah, Laura, I mean, this thing's blowing up. I can't even read it fast enough. Jamie, Tammy, people are really relating to this.
All right, so you are not alone, right? So now one of the things that's gonna happen, and I'm gonna warn you because it's happening on coaching calls and it happened just this morning on a call. You're gonna do all this monkey mind. People are in adrenaline, they're in cortisol, we're in fight or flight mode. And then all of a sudden the CEO shares with me, she says, AmyK, can I just ask you a question? I was like, sure. And she says, are people starting to resist? Are people starting to push back a little bit more? I was like, oh my gosh, you are so not alone. You know why? Because we're actually getting more comfortable. So it's a really good sign. We're adapting. We're getting ready to emerge, not into a new normal. Let's not go trite. We're getting ready to create a new reality. So what happens is, all the people who were willing to do anything and everything for you 4 weeks ago are now going to be like, Charlie, I kind of like working from home. I don't know that I need to come back into the office when this whole thing opens up. Or, hey, Charlie, I know that you asked me to show up on all these Zoom meetings. Yeah, I'm thinking this one's no longer important. And you're going to be like, oh, what's happening? It's a really great sign. So I want you to be prepared that people are going to start to push back. They're going to start to be a little bit more resistant as they start to adapt and settle in. And rather than taking it personally, you need to look at it as, oh my gosh, that's validation. People are getting more comfortable. This is a good sign. It's a good sign. Okay, connectivity. So I am going to not practice what I preach at the moment. So just take this with a grain of salt. Nobody wants to go to a meeting. Everybody wants to show up to a great conversation. So I want you to think about that. Nobody wants to go to another boring, soul-sucking meeting. Everybody wants to go to a great, awesome conversation. So think about ways to increase connectivity in Zoom. So a classic example is I use breakout rooms. Obviously, we're a webinar today. We're using the chat box for engagement because we have over 1,000 people on this. But if you've got a smaller group of people, whether it's 4, 12, 44, use the feature breakout room so that there's more dialogue, there's more conversation. Again, you're letting people know that their voice matters. All right, I'm gonna do this really quickly. There've been a ton of webinars on this. Maybe I'm even repeating myself, but these are my biggest bugaboos. So I'm just gonna share really, really quickly some great tips for using video. So use an external microphone or headphone. I've got a microphone today. It makes the sound so much better. I want you to avoid spelunking in nostrils. So if you notice, I am not super close to the camera right now. It's because we really don't want to know whether you've trimmed your nose hairs or not. Number 3, be aware of lighting. So if you have a huge window behind you or you've got a big old megawatt lamp behind you, your face is not going to be visible. So we can't connect with you. If we can't see your eyes, if we can't see your lips moving, if we can't see your smile, it's really hard to connect, right? Number 4, stop walking around. There are enough YouTube videos to prove to you right now why you don't do it. Enough said. All right, 5, look at the camera. So if you'll notice, I do look down at my slides on occasion and I'm looking at the chat box, right? But one of the things you want to remember is that if I were to talk to you, because I can see you, it makes it very hard for you to connect with me. Get my point? Got to look in the camera. Okay, selling in turbulent times. This is my sweet spot. This is what I love talking about. So first of all, yes, full stop. You may not agree with me. So let me just give you a little bit of thought behind why I'm saying it's appropriate to sell. There are still needs. There are absolutely still needs. There are things that people need right now for their families, for their businesses. They need your services. And so it's absolutely appropriate to sell, with one huge, huge caveat. There's a big difference in making money from a crisis and making money during a crisis, right? So we're going to talk a little bit more about that. It's really important to also to listen to your customers and really their own experiences, and then adapt as needed. So this is where I'm gonna, again, I'll just share something a little bit provocative. This is not about treating your customers equally. This is about treating your customers with equity. I'm gonna say that again. It is not about treating your customers equally. It is about treating them with equity. What do they each need? And it might be a different need, and you might have to solve or meet that need in a different, unusual, or unique way, right? So again, it's you adapting, being open to, again, we are living outside of examples, so let's set some new examples and some new protocols. So it's also listening to their unspoken needs. Now, I'm gonna give you a real world example. I will be vulnerable myself. I have a quick story I wanna share. I got an email in the first week of the pandemic from a gentleman. And we send out in our community, I send out free content on Wednesdays. So if you're a member of our community, we give you videos, we give you tools, it's just free. Generous is just one of my core values. So every Wednesday, I'm super generous. So you hear from me once a week, but we were doing a free webinar to deal with the turbulent times, very similar to this one. So we sent out an email Thursday, Friday, and Monday to get you ready for the Tuesday webinar. Well, this guy wrote me an email. And by email, I mean missive. Multiple paragraphs with the opening sentence of, AmyK, I used to work for Tony Robbins, so this is ridiculous that I should get 3 emails from you. And then it was this amazing diatribe. Notice what he didn't do. The unspoken need, he didn't hit unsubscribe. He didn't walk away. He wasn't silent. So what did it tell me? He's alone. He's isolated. He's looking for connectivity. He's probably feeling a little bit insecure or uncertain about whether he's going to be relevant in a few weeks, whether anybody will hire him. So you know what I did? I wrote him back and I said, thank you so much for sharing your truth. I said, I hear you. We will absolutely unsubscribe you. And I said, and by the way, I really hope that you stay safe and healthy. Cyber safe hugs, AmyK. He wrote me back. He wrote me back like three more paragraphs about, oh my gosh, isn't this crazy? And we're all trying to figure it out. And it just validated that when you listen to your customers' unspoken needs, you will be a rock star and a hero for them. So just take that into consideration when you're selling. All right, before you walk into a tough conversation, know your negotiables and your non-negotiables. What are you willing to do in this time and what are you not? Also, remember, this is just a phase. This is just a season. This is not long-term reality. So when you go to make decisions, I know a lot of people are like, well, what are we going to do? And will we do this forever? No, you don't have to do it forever, but you can do it for now. You could do it for a couple weeks. You could do it for a couple days. You could do it for a couple months. You could do it to the end of 2020. Remember to give yourself grace that you're not locked into this for forever. All right. So kind of the way that I sum up selling right now in turbulent times is this is Dick. Dick's got wet ones for $997. Don't be this guy. Don't be this guy. All right, here we go. There are real biz needs, right? Like maintaining morale, momentum, and motivation. There is keeping people connected and engaged, driving skill development so that we can all play stronger and emerge better, right? We want to position ourselves so we can capitalize on new opportunities. So how do I meet all those needs? Hello, I am talking to you today. This is what we're doing, right? We are starting with servant leadership. We are meeting all of those real world business needs by being in this webinar today. All right, we are switching to personal. You can tell I go 90 miles an hour because I know you're super smart and sophisticated and you can watch it again later if you want. Okay, so this is all about sheltering our relationships while we shelter in place. So this is about communicating your feelings, sans absolutes, validating first, then problem solving. And again, this is just an overarching slide. I'm going to dive into all of them. I want you to flirt. Yep, we are going there today. And I want you to schedule alone time, which sounds like an oxymoron to flirting, but actually they go together really well. So communicating your feelings sounds absolutes. Sometimes without realizing it, we want to be the white knight. We want to be the rescuer. We want to be the problem solver and the fixer. And because we care so much about the people that we love, what we do is we start with fixing it instead of validating their feelings first. So I'll say to somebody like, hey, Charlie, don't be stressed. We got this, right? Well, that doesn't actually make Charlie feel better. So what's really great is to communicate your feelings and then solve the problem. And a great way to communicate your feelings is without an absolute. So for instance, when Charlie comes to me and he says, I'm stressed, instead of being like, oh, don't be stressed, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with Charlie. What I want Charlie to say is, a part of me is stressed. A part of me is frustrated. A part of me is disappointed, or a part of me is angry. Now, why is this phrase one of my all-time favorites? Because it entirely changes the tone and tenor of a conversation. So if you're talking to a teenager, for example, and you say, I'm angry, all that teenager hears is my mom, my dad, my aunt, my uncle, my teacher, they're mad at me. So they buck up and they get really defensive and they get argumentative because there's no wiggle room. You're just angry. There's no place for them to go. But the minute that you say, you know, a part of me is angry and a part of me gets that you want to see your friends, but we need to talk this through, what you're telling that person is that there is room for respect and trust and love and acceptance, because it's just a part of you. It's the most beautiful way to communicate a tough emotion or to express yourself and be vulnerable. So if I said to you right now, you know, a part of me does really feel uncertain about the future, or a part of me is really concerned about, what you're letting people know is that there's this fraction of you that is working with this, that's wrestling with this. And there are other parts of you as well. I love this phrase. Okay. Now I mentioned that we were going to validate first and then problem solve. So Charlie just says, you know, a part of me is worried, and I come back and I say, I get it. I understand. I don't say, don't be worried, don't be stressed. I say, hey, I get it. I understand. I validate, and then I say, hey, Charlie, how are you hoping I respond? Or what do you want to do with this? Or can I help you? Right? So then you can move to problem solving after you validate. Okay, so we're living in tight quarters right now. And I got 2 teenage girls in my life, and I got Scott, and we're all working and we're doing our own thing. And so occasionally, I will admit, we misstep, right? All of us are guilty of this, right? So the very first thing that I want you to do is recognize that you're human, give yourself some grace, and then I want you to own it, right? So when you misstep, you're going to own it. When you say things like, I'm stressed and I'm tired of being cooped up and you said you were going to do it, those are not helpful, not so helpful, but they happen, right? We're all human. So the minute that you do it and you catch yourself, just own it. Hey, you know what? I'm sorry. It's the stress I'm feeling. You didn't deserve that reaction. I apologize. I'm sorry. I realize now I'm trying to control everyone and everything because I feel out of control, right? So you're just owning your missteps, really important. So do me a favor and type yes in the chat box if you've been a little bit short, if you've had to have one of your own missteps. You are not alone, my friends.
Snap, snap, snap. Susan, Monica, Mary, everybody, Felicia. This is everybody's. They're with you, AmyK. They're with you.
They are with me. All right. So I got a few snaps in there, right? But let's do the opposite, right? Let's also show up and own when we've been awesome. So give me a smile if you've had an unexpected delight in the last 7 days. Give me a smile. Oh, look at all the smile emoticons.
Valerie, Katie, Bobby. Oh, everybody smiling. Emojis.
Oh, I love it. Awesome. Okay. So let's talk about this, flirt. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but it's extraordinarily important. So probably some of you are thinking, AmyK, are you kidding me? What the flirt? I have web pages and reports. I'm homeschooling. I've got a 5-year-old and a 10-year-old and a 15-year-old. And trust me, you are stretched to the max, right? Let alone all the pets and the name. I mean, it goes on, right? But this is really important. And so I'm going to do, again, just a quiet, deep breath here. We are flattening the curve as we watch, as we participate in this. I would also like to flatten the divorce curve coming out of the pandemic. Mm-hmm. This is really, really important, right? This is your bestie. This is the person that you chose to go through life with. And so if you can remind yourself that this is your most intimate and your most connected, and you all are a team and you are unified in this together, it's going to go a long way. So for you to stop and just say, hey, I so appreciate all that you're doing. You know, it's a turn on when you take out the trash. That can be a multitask text right there. You know, a little reminder with a little flirt, you know, make it work. But enjoy the fact that you are with your bestie. Doesn't mean you won't get on each other's nerves, which is why we also need to schedule alone time. Now, this is really important because I know a lot of parents feel extraordinary guilt about scheduling alone time. It actually makes you better. When we've done the research, I'm a geek. We've got everything from MIT and Michigan to Johns Hopkins, and Emory in Atlanta. Like, we all know that you show up better when you've had a chance to refuel, however that refuel is, whether it's a bike ride, a walk by yourself, whether you just need to go read a book, however you chillax. It's really important that you schedule alone time. So I'm just curious, how many of you right now are craving a little more alone time? Oh, I love it. Date night every week. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, good. All right, good.
We won't say the name this time, will we? We won't say the names for this question.
No, we won't. We'll keep those. Charlie, that'll be your and I little secret there. Okay. It's really, I'm just going to emphasize here, it's not selfish, it's smart, right? Okay. So give me a quick type yes if you've got kids at home, just so I know who I'm talking to. Give me some yeses. Okay. Yes, yes, yes. And then the opposite. Tell me yes if you are hanging out with me, myself, and I right now. Tell me the opposite if you are alone. I wish. Okay. Yes, alone and love it. Okay. Charlie, these are cracking me up. Oh my goodness. Okay, so one of you just wrote that you are quarantining with a brand new husband. All right, so congratulations to both of you. If you are with me, myself, and I, again, it's important to then do the inverse and to schedule the connectivity that you want when you want it, right? So that's the flip side of alone time. Okay, on personal, we're gonna do, I've probably got about 8 more minutes. You hanging with me? Tell me yes if you're hanging with me. I got 8 more minutes. Tell me yes if you're hanging with me.
Yes, we're here.
All right, cool. All right. So one of the things that I wanted to say is that it's even smarter to schedule your alone time strategically, right? So you can stagger it. So one of the things that we do is that Scott gets alone time and then I get alone time. And then we've had double alone time away from each other, which helps with the flirting, right? And then we stagger the kids. So that, yes, you can have alone time for the whole family at 4 o'clock, but it works better and you get more alone time when you stagger it. So just think about that. Okay, leading yourself so that you can stay anchored and moored. This is where I'm going to move to individual. So we're kind of nearing the end here. It's time to go on a diet. And before you get pissy with me, it's not what you think. It's not what you think at all, right? And then it's about moving your butt. This is exactly what you think. And so I was so glad that Todd is involved with this webinar series because this is so important to our mental health. And then we're going to talk about how you watch your spiraling stories. So when I say it's time to go on a diet, this is not at all what you think. This is about being on a conversation diet. What do I mean by that? Nothing can survive without food. So just think about that for a second. Nothing can survive without food, which means that everything that we consume is either going to heal us and nurture us and help us grow, or it's going to erode us or poison us. So the conversations that we participate in, I really want you to think of them like food. So when we say something affirming or encouraging, we are feeding and fostering support and compassion and love. When we speak or act in a way that causes stress, tension, hurt, or anger, all we're going to nourish is more suffering. And that's really important, and it goes full stop to what I said almost an hour ago. When you show up as a servant leader, your number one job is to set your people up for success, whether those are your children, your spouse, yourself, your community. Your number one job is to set your people up for success and ease their suffering. And so I just want you to start noticing what it is that you are feeding yourself and others. So I want you to start paying attention to what you're reading. I want you to pay attention to what you're watching. I want you to pay attention to what you're listening to, what you're doing, what you're saying. I really want you to stop and own this, that nourishing and healing words and actions are the food and fuel of our relationships, especially, most especially that relationship that we have with me, myself, and I, that internal talk. So I just want you to type yes if you think you can go on a conversation diet. Start watching how much you consume, the words that you use. Yes. All right. Yeses are flying in. Truly need to. All right. Awesome. Okay. So one thing to think about is moving your butt. Again, really quickly, I am not the expert on this. I'm just an advocate of the brain science behind it. You guys can show up with Todd, but I want you to move your butt. I want you to walk if you're not walking. I want you to go online. You can get hundreds of workouts. Hello. You know where to go. And I think it's what, 5 or 6 o'clock tonight, maybe 6. So check it out. It also aids your sleep. So one of the things that we're witnessing in this pandemic right now is that people are having a hard time falling asleep. People are having a hard time staying asleep. And then ironically, you're having a hard time getting out of bed. So exercise really aids in that as well. So one of the things that would be really great is that if you could just let me know that this resonates, give me some Z's. Yep. Okay. So see, you're not alone.
Z's. We're not sleeping now, that's for sure.
Yeah, no, good. All right. So here we go. My final couple practical tips and tools so that we can wind up here. Oh, reduces anxiety and stress and boosts your energy. Those were more things that I wanted to say about exercise. Okay. I want you to watch your spiraling stories. What do I mean by that? There are low energy versus high energy words. We've done the science on this. This is not kumbaya. We know that there's a mind-body connection, and how you talk to yourself influences your physical state and your energy levels. So for instance, just be more aware in the next couple days as you hear yourself saying things like, I'm exhausted. I'm overwhelmed. I can't do this. I'm so confused, right? Those are all low energy words. Now, high energy words are not kumbaya, sis boom ba, cheerleader words. No, just notice the subtle difference. One step at a time. Deep breath. I can do this. I got this. Now, I would love for you to let me know if your circumstances have been a little disrupted, if you've got some new routines going on. Have you been disrupted?
Oh my
Have you been
gosh.
disrupted?
There's no rupted anymore. It's just all disrupted. Yes. There's no one even knows a routine. Yep. It's just blowing up. Wanda, Karen, Audrey, everybody, Larissa.
Like, who hasn't, right? Okay, who hasn't? That's a good point. Who hasn't, right? Okay, so I'm going to teach you a really quick tool. And this is one of my all-time favorite coaching tools. And I am sharing it generously right now because it is so redunculously awesome. And the timing could not be a better tool to give you right now. So this is something that happens in your brain. This is how we form stories and thoughts and negative beliefs. There's a neurological and a psychological process that we go through called CTFAR, just an acronym for circumstance, thought, feeling, action, and result. Circumstance, thought, feeling, action, and result. So let's just, as an example, say, you and your significant other, you and your partner, you and your spouse were loving life because you just sent the last child off to school last September and you were enjoying the quiet and solitude of empty nesting. But now they're back. All 3 of them are back. So the circumstances is my kids are all home from college. Your thought is, this is crazy. This is insane. We're going to drive each other nuts. Your feelings are stress and anxiety. The action is you all just chirp at each other all day long, talking about how stressed you are. And the result is you prove yourself right. Or the circumstance doesn't change. All your kids are back home from school, but your thought is, okay, this is new. This is going to be different. We'll adapt. We'll figure it out. Could maybe even be kind of fun. The feelings, okay, let's just go with the flow. I'm cool with this. I'm comfortable. Your actions are, you start trading off cookie night and you start to play games like Scrabble and Cornhole. And then the result is that, yeah, there are some tough adapted moments, but for the most part, you're having a great time, thus proving yourself right. What I love about CT4 is that thoughts come before feelings. So when somebody says, I just can't help the way I feel, my professional response is bullshit, malarkey. You can totally work on how you feel. Look at your thought first. Then we can look at your feelings. But let's choose our stories and our beliefs first. And so again, when I say things like malarkey, I'm not saying them from not a place of compassion. I feel 100% compassion for you. It's how I'm wired. I'm wired to serve. I love my peeps. It's just the way I was given the DNA. What I want you to do is take it as tough love of go back and look at your thought. Go back and look at your story. Because a moment ago, you weren't stressed and you weren't anxious. So what story popped into your mind? What belief, what thought did you have that you're now buying into that's changing your feelings, which is changing how you act, which is getting you a result that you don't want? It's a very powerful way to look at it. All right, let's wind up. Let's talk about change. So first of all, I'm going to debunk a huge myth here. We've been told over and over again, people fear change. Not true. You don't fear change. You love change. If I said to you, I'm going to give you $1 million, you'd be like, woo, that's awesome change, right? So no pun intended. So what I want to talk about with change is what kinds of change we actually fear. There's only two. There's only two changes that we fear. One, a threat to my identity, and two, the belief that I will not be successful in the new way. I'm going to say that again. A threat to my identity and the belief that I will not be successful in the new way. So if I feel like the change is not threatening my identity, or if my identity is going to shift just in a way that I'll be even more successful, I'm in. I love change. So don't just take the generalization, people fear change. It's not true. People feel fear about the threats to their identity and whether they're going to be successful or not. So when we communicate about change, it's really important to show up and share the why behind it, the big objective. It's really important to, again, be credible. Remember how I started with credible, calm, and certainty? The bottom line, the facts, the financial consequences, the logic behind the decision. So important to let people know that you're thinking it through, that these are the thought process that went into the decision that you've made, right? And then to give people more certainty through actions and timelines, to feel in control of their future success and letting them know that they have control over it and structure. And then to minimize surprises. Hello, nobody really wants the surprise, right? So to really make sure that you're keeping people informed and up to date. And then the heavy lifting. You need to look at the emotional impact on the myriad of constituents, right? So really, really, really important. And I know that, sometimes I get pushback. People be like, well, what about the fear of the unknown? Well, the fear of the unknown is just the encapsulated. The fear of the unknown is I don't know whether I'm going to be successful and I don't know whether my identity is going to be threatened, right? So again, it just always comes back to those two. So making sure that when we talk about change, that it is engagement and inclusion, that people can co-create the future together. And I really believe in that, co-creation of the future. All right, so I'm going to get personal for a second, and I'm going to end with, I got 2 more slides. Type yes if you've ever witnessed a leader lose credibility in a crisis moment.
Oh my God. Yes, Robin, Susan, Lene, Chris, this is, yes, everybody.
Okay.
Right.
So it's really important that as you communicate as a leader, that you're communicating often, that you are not communicating to incite fear, rumors, and speculation, but to actually debunk them. It's really important to be factual and empathic, and you can be both. You don't need to make stuff up. You don't need to lie. You can be totally factual and show support and concern. And it's really important to speak truthfully and thoughtfully so that you remain credible, right? Again, go with the facts, go with what you know, go with the data, and then here's my thoughtful response to it. So in closing, this is just my little mantra. Life happens one conversation at a time. I've been saying this for over 28 years. The quality of your life is a direct reflection of the quality of your conversations. I truly, truly believe this. It's just happening one conversation at a time. So tell me yes in the chat box if there are some takeaways for you, if there are some nuggets for you. I so believe in value. And so I want to offer you two things that are truly, truly free. I have lots of free resources, lots of free tools for balance, for connectivity, for reducing stress, for working with teams. So this is not a sales pitch today. I have lots of free tools. The other thing that you can do is I share a ton of information and videos on Instagram. Again, all free. You can follow me on Instagram. So please know that if you got value from today, you can maximize it enormously by getting a bunch more free stuff from me. So again, from my heart to yours, thank you to everybody at NAMI. Thank you to all of you in the community today for inviting me. Charlie, I'm turning it over to you.
We're doing that. I'm hearing impaired. So hearing impaired people, we clap like this, and our virtual audience tonight is clapping you like this, Amy. Thank you so much for being with us. Absolutely awesome. Audience, remember tonight, not tomorrow night, tonight, 6 p.m., we're going to go virtually with Farrell's and then go to We Are Here With You. You know where the website is. I forgot. weareherewithyou.com, and you can apply to join the board. You can apply to join a special committee. You can sign up for the 30-day fitness program. You have to do the live program to get into that. And then we'll see you all here again next week at noon. For next week, Dr. Selena Pierman, a PhD organizational behavior specialist, is going to be talking about emotional intelligence. Thanks, guys. We love having you here. See you soon.